And you're live.
All right, House Education, Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. We're gonna do a quick bill introduction. This is gonna be H-199. It is a short form, so it probably will be quick. Anyway, Representative Burrows, thank you for being here. And sorry for the scheduling mix-up, but we're happy to have you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Elizabeth Burrows, and I represent Heartland, West Windsor, and Windsor of Windsor One, the Windsor One district. And for full disclosure, I am also a school board member on our local Manascutney School District and our board, and also on our supervisory union board. And so I'm wearing all of those hats as I sit here right now. This bill came, the issues in this bill came up during the yield bill at the end of last session. And does three simple things. It limits the amount of tuition that a public receiving school can charge a sending school. And I can explain each of these pretty simply. The second thing it does is it disallows for extraneous fees that can't be accounted for to be charged by receiving public schools to receiving or to sending districts. And the third thing it does is it asks to have tuitions be removed from the excess spending threshold. So as it is right now, let me just give you a couple of set up the dynamic as it is right now. And this has to do with two school districts within our supervisory union, Heartland and Wethersfield. Right now, they tuition, Wethersfield in particular, tuitions to mostly public receiving schools. Those schools, at the beginning of the year, the Agency of Education set the allowable tuition rate, which is supposed to be a guideline for public schools for the tuitions that they charge. They set the allowable tuition rate at $16,606 for this school year. Springfield High School is charging Wethersfield $26,000 in tuition this year. So what winds up happening when public schools don't have a cap on what they can charge is that it sets up a dynamic where the sending school or the receiving school can charge whatever they want. And the sending school, in order to stay under the excess spending threshold, has to cannibalize its own local budget. And when we're talking about $26,000 per student, we're actually talking about hundreds of thousands into the millions of dollars that sending districts have to eat out of their own budget. In the case of Heartland and Wethersfield, there are two elementary K-8 schools, and so Heartland had to cut almost $2 million out of its budget in order to get under the excess spending threshold. The other thing that, and these are totally anecdotal, I don't have any idea whether this goes on all over the state, but as a board member of a previously very small district, not that our new district is huge, but our district used to get also, in addition, charged a thousands of dollars fee for a student walking in the door with an IEP. That does not cover the amount that the sending district pays for the IEP services or the 504 services. The sending district is obliged to cover those costs. But just as a fee of walking in the door, as a high school student with an IEP, we were charged an extra $10,000 on top of the tuition. And it's not required that that fee be accountable in any way. It's just a fee. So, so my request is that these issues are, or the first two issues are separate from the third issue, but also very much related. In talking with Weathersfield and Heartland, they felt that the third issue, keeping the tuitions out of the excess spending threshold, would actually really dissipate the other two, the impacts of the other two issues, because they would not have to cannibalize their local budget. And it's really not their, they don't operate the grades that they tuition for. So let's see. And again, so in the case of, one of the dynamics that is set up is that a receiving school with the excess spending threshold can pass its excess spending on to the sending district, because it's trying, that the receiving district, because it's public, is trying to remain under the excess spending threshold. It can do that through increasing the tuition for sending districts. And so it creates this really bad dynamic between the districts. And, you know, fairness and unfair, you know, discussion of fairness and unfairness aside, I put this bill in because I feel that there was a discussion opened during the yield bill discussion last year, and that there's a way through this that will alleviate for all of us.
Thank you for making this a short form bill on behalf of our legislative council. Without us going into the deep depths of how tuitions are set and all that, are there questions? I just want to make sure I understand the scenarios you're talking about. What you're really talking about is a situation where you might have a local K-8 or K-6 school, and then the upper grades have choice. In that choice scenario, you can't control what schools parents may choose to send their kids to. And if they send them to a public school may set their tuition where they choose. I think there are some guardrails on it, but I'm not sure what they are. We can dive into that later. And therefore, if they charge, as you said in one example, $26,000 a year, the school board, if it feels it needs to reduce its spending to get voter approval, the only place they can cut is that elementary school that is sitting there, because tuition has to be paid.
Right. And that's the irony, is that the public schools tend to charge a lot more than the private and independent schools, because they have a state average cap on their allowable tuition rate.
The private schools do.
Private schools do. Public schools don't have that.
Representative Long.
Just trying to clarify the whole picture. The scenario described by our chair is true no matter what the child comes from. No matter whether the tuition is charged at a public or independent school. And this gets complicated. I have to think this out. I'm sorry. The public schools have that tuition amount that private schools have a allowable tuition amount, but is it not true that a community can choose to pay over that?
For private or independent?
Independent yeah, school.
I don't know about that.
I believe that is,
Yes, they
Scenario.
can if they have a town vote.
So-
approving it.
right, so there could be what, I guess what I'm trying to get at is there could be a surcharge in a private or independent school as well.
Yeah.
If a community agrees to that. I just wanted to
Yeah.
put the bigger picture on all of it. Okay, thanks. That clarifies for me.
Go ahead, Josh.
So one of the things you mentioned was just removing tuition from the excess spending threshold. That alone would alleviate a lot of pressure. It sounds like from both sides of that equation, the school that needs to increase their tuition to,
Well,
and the school that's paying the tuition, because it's not gonna hit their excess spending threshold.
no, what it would do is, it would prevent the sending school district from having to cannibalize their budget in order to account for tuitions. It would not change anything about receiving schools, passing their,
I just misunderstood, but the first part, it sounds like it would be very beneficial to the sending school. If you were,
yeah, I think it would prevent a lot of destruction.
Got it.
I mean, right now, it's really profound what districts have had to do in order to account for the tuitions.
thank you.
As I was thinking about it in my head, I said, well, then, in the spirit of competition, kids shouldn't go to schools that cost $26,000 a year, but it's a free choice. It's not up to the town where the kids go. It is up to the parents.
I mean, they could designate, but then the rule of designation is that it would have to be the same tuition for all of the 3 designated schools, and they have to agree on what that tuition is, which is exactly why that is so infrequently used.
Yes, this is a complicated one, and certainly,
It seems complicated because the way that the structure is set up is complicated, and if you don't live in an area where this is what happens,
Mhm.
it's easy to get confused about it. For us, that's the way that it works, and once you can wrap your hands around it, then it's actually a pretty simple bill.
yeah, it's kind of a question though, getting into, okay, what would allow a public school to charge $26,000 a year? And how do you put guardrails around that? Great.
Which is a whole issue in and of itself, right?
Rob?
Just mind speeding ahead, if things were to progress with the governor's plan and we move to a foundation formula, that might just fix it all anyway.
The governor's plan, you would no longer have tuition.
Exactly,
No longer need to.
exactly. So it might just fix itself.
Situation. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Gonna not have a ledge council walk through
Okay.
short form.
Sure.
A big issue, good issue. Thank you.